Recently on Woodworking with Wes, we had Jared show us how to paint a door. We painted one coat and he suggested, or not told us, that 2 coats were what he had to do in order to get a good finish. This is that door with 2 coats of paint on it. But today we're going to take an extra step beyond that, and Jared is going to wood grain this door for us like they used to do a lot in antique homes. In fact, it's kind of a special process. We're going to let him just go ahead and take over and show us all of the little techniques that he uses to wood grain a door for a historic home. Jared?
Thank you, Wes. This door I'm using is actually an old door. And if I want to, wood graining works best on something brand new because it picks up the imperfections. But we'll work with that. As the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's thousands of ways to wood grain a door. I take a little spatula they used to mix, I think this package came with for Bondo, mixing Bondo. And what I've done is I've cut it down into different sizes to make different patterns for graining. So I've got all kinds of sizes that I've made, and I just cut them out with a razor blade. Different thicknesses, different, to make corners and edges. Even have it to go around if there's a round thing I need. I can make a tool that I need. I also use different brushes, dried hard, that will give the different textures. This is a graining tool that will can make a pattern. I can make knots with it and such. And this just lifts off little sections of paint and gives it a oak finish. To begin with, I have the base coat, the color that I want, and I'll put some dark colors on it. And it's kind of an experiment. I've got 3 different colors of browns, and I'll mix them together. And before I get the door right, I'll do a practice run on just a blank board to see what colors and see how it looks. So I'll start with Dutch chocolate, and I'll add a little bit of that in and mix it into. I have a faux finishing glaze. It's a latex, so it dries faster, but it gives you a little more working time. If there's an oil base, it dries really slow, but it gives you a longer working time. It's just hard to find the oil base around here.
Now this faux finishing glaze, it's a special product just for faux finishing?
It's a
wood graining?
Yes, it's just a glazing, and what I'll do is I will add, it's kind of a milky white. This is rather old, so it's kind of a tan color. It's usually a little bit wider than that.
Now this faux finishing glaze, let's talk a little bit about that. Where would you be able to buy that? Is that something that you could get from your local retail paint supplier?
Any paint store should have it.
Any paint store should have it, okay.
Faux glazing.
Is there a specific brand name that is the best? What is that brand of that one right there? Is it a...
This is just from Sherwin-Williams.
Okay, so Sherwin-Williams.
This is faux. Home Depot has some. Lowe's should have.
Okay, all right.
Any store you sell.
Just so we know where we can find it. That's great.
Glazing.
Thank you.
So I have this glazing, and I'm going to add some color to it. Just any paint, any color. And then it's kind of a experiment, just to see what color and how it turns out. So I pour the paint in here, and I used about 6-to-1 ratio, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exact. It's not an exact science. I want to darken it just a little bit. Here's where I'm at right now with the color. It's kind of milky. I want to add maybe a little dark to it.
Now, is there a specific wood that you are trying to reproduce right now, or is it
kind of oak?
You're trying to do an oak. Okay, very good. Thank you.
I put a couple of 3 large tablespoons in that, darkening it up just a bit. Can you see that in there? And I want to add a little red to it. So I've got a red, kind of a red looking paint called Dutch chocolate. And it doesn't look very good, but it'll get the color I need. You see, I'm not putting much, just a little bit in there. Okay, I'm mixing this up and I'm trying to get the color that I like. Like I say, it's just kind of experiment. Usually I'd paint on a plywood board, but this door is just a practice door. So I'll use this as my practice. And when I paint it, kind of the same way as I did when I painted the door for the first time. But it doesn't cover as well. It's more transparent. It's not a solid. As you can see, it's not a solid.
And that's because of the glazing?
Because the glaze, and I don't want it to be solid.
Right.
I want it to show through. So that's the glazing. It makes it that way. But I want it on even and nice. So I put it as if I'm painting it. I'm using the same door painting techniques. You know, I get it on every direction, and then I'll follow it. Just kind of make sure it's. And I have a couple of things I can do. I want to see what I like. And if I don't like it, I'll get a rag of water and wipe it off. It's just a real simple. This is one style that's real simple. It's just straight. I didn't like how that was. I'll do it again. Sometimes you do it right over it even. The rag to wipe off the excess. I want to keep it clean so it can make a smooth line finish.
I can see how too much paint would be a bad thing when you're trying to do this. Is that correct?
That is correct. Sometimes it's a mess.
Okay.
And I have several different brushes. I can use a brand new one. And these are the chip brushes I get at Harbor Freight, like 29 or 39 cents a piece, or I get a box of them for a couple of bucks. They're real cheap. I don't get these at the paint store because they're about 5 times as much money for the same thing.
Harbor Freight. Okay, we'll remember that.
No, they're not part of the sponsor.
Right, I understand. Very good.
And I can go back and just kind of make additional lines to see. I look at how the paint dries on it. Sometimes it just kind of, you know, I could do it. If I like it, I don't like it. Just practice, I play with it. I got time to play with it. But as long as the brush strokes or the grain marks go all the way and stop at the edge. This is a graining tool that just kind of picks up some of the paint and it leaves like a small pattern. And sometimes I can cross grain it, and it has the like the little oak divots you've seen in an oak finish. Can you see how that changed the color just a bit?
Yeah. Now this graining tool that you just showed us, where would you get something like that?
At a hobby store, or you can get it at a paint store. You can just ask for a this tool and this tool. You can get it at most paint store, hobby stores, or professional paint stores.
All right, very good, thank you.
So that's simple. Oh, I got a line there. I don't like that. So I can start over. So you know what? There's a line there, and it's not natural. It doesn't belong. I'm going to start over. So see, I'm just painting right over it. And remember how the airplane lifts off gently so it doesn't leave it too bad of a mark?
Yeah.
Okay, and with the glazing, you have a little more time to play with it. Let me try
Now these
this one. I want to do a little different so it's a little wider.
these spatulas that you are showing us, you have cut those with a razor blade, you say, to give you different teeth marks, basically like a comb?
Yes.
Almost? Okay. And you have different sizes for different angles?
You can see the different looks from
Yeah.
before. And if I don't like it, I'll white it out and try it again. And I want to be careful not to get too much on the side where I'm not ready to paint. I don't want to get that marked up yet. Okay, and sometimes I can just take a dry brush and soften it a little bit if I want. Now the problem with perfectionists, people are perfectionists, there's no way to get it perfect, and you could get it just right and then ruin it by trying to make it becoming too perfect. Wood is a natural, and if you play with it too long, it's actually worse than if you just left it alone. Especially when you're beginning, it's okay to practice on a board till you get right. Then it's not going to be perfect. Just put it on and then leave it alone. I ruined the edges. I'm going to try the edges again.
So now this glazing product that you're using, mixing with paint, is a water base. I saw you just clean up a little bit with water, so this is all water based.
Yes.
Okay.
I like using the oil base, and if that was the case, I'd have you get me some. I'd have to get some paint that are mineral spirits.
But like you say, oil base is a little harder to come by now because of all of the
Some states
EPA rules.
Yes. But the glazing will work. Okay, so this is probably, we'll call this done.
Okay.
Let's do a bigger one here too. We'll try this one for the fun of it, and then I'll do the, just it. So I'm gonna clear myself some room. I got the color where I think the color's getting close enough. Okay, when this dries, I can put another glazing coat over it. If I want it to make it a little more golden oak, I'll put a yellow mix the glaze. And if it's dry enough, we'll look at that today.
Okay.
Let me and this is a little bigger, so I want to go kind of fast because I don't want it to dry out. Sometimes if I'm doing a large area, I may have a helper help me out, a second person. If I'll show them how to use certain tools, and it's a good two-person job.
Just for our viewers' information, we'll let him think that I don't know how to do this because I don't. We're letting him show us how to do this, and I don't think I'm that extra helper he's looking for. So we'll plead innocent or plead guilty of not knowing what we're doing here, and we'll let Jared continue to show us how.
The worst case scenario is you wipe it down and start over. My first rule of paint, my first painting rule is to have fun. If you're not having fun, take a break, try it again later. It's got to be fun, otherwise it just won't work. If you're frustrated, go out, relax, take a break, and try it again, because it's not going to work if you're frustrated. I'm going to use the wider angles and back up and kind of lift off so it doesn't match. I'm cutting, I don't want to redo over it, so I lifted it at an angle and only did part of it. I kind of like how that goes, and I'm going to go back again with a smaller, just see how this works on top of it. Now I'll take, let's see if I just want to drag some. Run it just a little angle. And I will do the edges. Like I said, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just putting in wood. Just grain's not perfect. Never is.
That's true.
And that's the beauty of it. I just don't want it to look too terribly fake. That looks fake. I'm going to start over on that little one. See, it's real easy. Just paint right over it. And probably a smaller brush would work better on these. I should have two brushes, one for the small, one for the... But notice I'm kind of going up a little bit, and that's okay, because the wood won't always be exact. Okay, now I'm going to soften it. Just slightly drag it on. I'm just trying to soften it, and it's just a real light touch. And I can ruin it by doing this. And if that's the problem, it's still wet enough, I could wipe it off and start over. See, like this, I'll do for show purpose. I purposely oopsed on this so I can just wipe it off
Oh, that's not hard.
and try it again.
Very forgiving then.
Yeah. And if you got a mark or a ding here, it may show up. There's a little dark spot. That'll show up nicely in the grain. But the best is to have a smooth door. Okay, so I want to, it's a little bit wet. I'm going to get my dry cloth. I'm going to get a smaller brush. That way I don't have to worry about over brushing where it already fixed. And it looks a little different than the other, but that's okay. It's not all this from the same piece of wood. These two sections of the door that I painted were real simple, straight graining. Now I'm going to go and show you a little more detailed, kind of a fun graining. And we're going to do the rails and stiles. Just like painting a door, I start from, do the middle, overlapping from the rail. And you notice I have a board here going this way, and a board going this way, and a board going this way, and it stops right here. So I'm going across it. And it's real important that I keep a wet edge. I just take this tool and I drag it. And see, I made a little knot at the end. And I'll do the same thing. I can go over it and I can just drag it just a bit. And I say, oh, I don't like that. I can try it again. Let's try it again. And once again, don't be perfectionist because you'll never get it done. Just a simple, oops, didn't work. Let's try it again.
And it creates the different grain as you rotate your brush while you're dragging?
See, as I'm dragging it, I can rotate it. I can make a knot, and I'll show you as I go down. And then what I want to do is I'll do the top here. I'll do this side, and I cut it across right there. Now it's going to take me a minute before I get to the side, so I'm not going to rush myself. If I had a couple people helping, I could do this door in a few minutes. I'm wiping off the excess so it won't dry on. And see, I just keep this wet. I got to keep a wet edge. I want to get over it, and I paint it. I slap it on different directions. And it's not as important as painting a straight line because I'm going to do a little imperfection is okay. I can take the graining tool. I don't want to get too much on here, so I can wipe it and keep it clean. And watch how I rock it. Can you see how was my paint in the way? You can see how I just kind of rock. I can even see I did a knot hole, or I can just kind of, it's more natural, straight. I got too much paint on there, so it drags. It doesn't look as good. So let's try it again. And if you don't like it, just try it again. You can also just use the, I can put two pieces, right like that, clean it. I can overlap just a bit. And then I can use my handmade graining tools. Let's see, kind of like this one maybe. And I can just kind of drag this along and put a little wiggle in this. I'll do this too. It's a little, I should have got a bigger one, but this will work. I'll just kind of go on and it's just dragging through. Oh, make sure you didn't cut across that. Let's go this way. I'll make sure I don't cut into the other side. And there we go.
Wow, that looks like real wood. That's amazing.
It may look a little sloppy, but we're getting there. So I cut it again in this way, and then I would cut off here. Then I can run the rail. I can go the rail all the way down. Before I do the rails though, I should do all of the centerpieces. So let me, made a mistake. I'll wipe this off. Now it's important that I don't get on, when this is all wet, that I don't touch it, otherwise I'll ruin it. And I've got to make sure that I go in the right direction. If I did the rails first like I started to earlier, that makes it too hard to make a nice edge. It's hard to stop right on there. You can put tape, but then it leaves not a very lumpy kind of an end. And I can use this graining tool. I don't have to use the graining tool on all parts. I can just use it right in the middle or on the edge or on the side. In this case, I'll just do a little bit right in the middle. I don't even have to turn it. I can just almost keep it straight if I wanted to. See what happens when I keep it straight. And there, like I said, there's 1,000 ways to do this. So you practice and do it the way you like. And then I'll take an edge. I'm going to edge this just a bit. Oops. And I want a little heavier. I'm going to use this one. And then I'll run my tool over it. Pull it off. I did this earlier. Like I said, I did it earlier. I'm going to this. See those little marks it leaves in there? I've got this tool that I use to add a little texture. I can, again, dry brush it. I can take one of my old paint brushes and lightly put some more texture in there if I want. This is getting old here, so I'm going to take water and wipe that off so it doesn't leave too much of a mark. I don't mind if it leaves a little bit, but I don't want to see through it. I don't want it to look fake. So if there's something I don't like, I can just erase it and start over. If you're a perfectionist, you might be working on this forever. So sometimes enough is enough. That's not just good, it's good enough. Okay, so I'll continue when I finish the rest of the inside. I'll finish once I get all the sides, then I'll get the rails done. And then when it dries, I put another coat of glazing, another top coat to give it more depth and more color.
Now, what color of glaze you're talking about putting an additional glaze over the top of it? You wouldn't wood grain that glaze, would you? Is it just kind of a...
It's kind of a clear, transparent. Oh. I can add it, I can texture it a bit. It's a little bit light in a couple of places, but I'm not going to do it until this dries because I don't want to ruin. I have to let this dry and then I'll put the other glaze coat. So we'll give it a couple hours and we'll come back.
Okay.
Wood grain is now dried a little bit. This is an hour ago. It's still a little soft, but it's dry enough. And I'm going to put a glazing on top just to give it a little more depth and a little more color. If you like this, we could stop right here and you're done. Sometimes you can put a clear lacquer coat, but we're going to go one step more and put another top coating. I've got some colorol, or just some natural tints. I'm adding to the glazing, the same glazing I used to make the wood grain. And I want it just to yellow it just a bit. That's a little too yellow. I'll brown it up just a bit. It doesn't take up, so whoops, shake it up. Just a drop. We'll see what happens. Just a drop in there. Doesn't take much. There, yeah, see it took just a drop, got rid of that real bright yellow. Almost a mustard color, and we'll paint it on and see what she looks like. Let me get my brush. I'm gonna put just a top coat. Now, if I were doing this, was gonna be a real door, a complete door, I wouldn't test it out on my work. I would have a sample panel or a sample door like this so I can see what I like and what I don't like. Because if I don't like it, then I gotta do it over. So I'm gonna put a little bit on here just to soften it. That's a little too, just a little too yellow for me. So let's take some I'm gonna add a little more orange to it. And I'll dab a little bit on there and see how that works. Sometimes if I don't like the way it's turning out, I can put a little water in there and soften it up with just a little bit of water. But I want the brush strokes to be. So you see how it softens it and changes the color a bit? Might be a bit much, but we'll try it again and you will get kind of an idea of what it can look like.
Now, being as this is a water base paint and glaze, if you get your brush wet, now that our original wood graining is dry, you're not going to be removing any of that, are you?
No, as you can see, my water, I'm not doing a whole lot. In fact, there's another technique is I could put the water down first and then put the paint over it, and it's not as stark.
Okay. So the water...
So this is, you just practice different styles and techniques on your practice board till you get the desired finish or the desired color that you want.
I see. You're showing us several different things here, right? Yeah, now see, me personally, this is a little too much yellow.
I don't like that, but that was the first try.
Yes, I understand. But this I kind of like.
This works as we work at. And that's why we have our sample boards, so I don't ruin it and have to start over. I practice sample board, I get the color just how I want it. And actually like this, sometimes I like putting a little water on there, you know, before. Sometimes I put the water on. I don't like it with the water. I like I like this.
Yeah.
This was without, and this was a mix between. So this is just one final, and if I like this, I'll finish the rest of the wood door like this. And in fact, we'll go over and let's take a door that I finished with similar to this.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Let's
Let's go take a look at your finished product.
Okay.
Very good.
This is a completed door that I did about 2 years ago in an actual historic home. And what you saw, the process, is what this door would look like. Very simple. I did add a little, I put a coat of lacquer on it to protect it, since a lot of people will be coming through, touching, gets a lot of wear and tear, so I wanted to actually put 2 coats of lacquer over the finish.
Hey, Jared, we want to thank you so much for showing us how to do wood graining. It is so cool. And you tell us that they used to do this just as much as painting way back when, 1840s to 1880s type stuff?
Yes, they did it in the 1800s. It was a very common process or method of painting. Most of the art painters back then were artists, and they like to show off their work. So it was just as common to have a wood grain door as it would to have a solid color painted door.
That is amazing, and it's amazing how it's come out. We just love it, and we love you showing us the process.
Well, thank you
so much, and we'll see you next time on Woodworking with Wes.